Thank you. Look, my thanks to the organisers for this very undeserved honour. And I'm going to talk about something a little different, perhaps out of left field, but we'll get there. I did tell the organisers, look, you know, I'm an academic. They asked me to do something uplifting, motivational for you. And I said, well, you know, academics, we don't do motivation. You know, we're more into, you know, criticism, things going wrong, you're not doing well. Pessimism is our stock in trade. But for Harrow here, who invited me, I'm making an effort. Look, it is quite easy for even the most skeptical of critical academics to be enthusiastic about the European Union, which is probably the greatest political, peaceful creation in world history. If you think that here and around us, Europe tore itself apart twice in the first half of the last century, and then since then, that's Dresden. All the crimes were not just on one side, by the way. Since then, we have a polity that is democratic, is prosperous, and operates multilingually. And that's what interests me. There's this wonderful political creation that has been possible thanks to the Treaty of Rome. I'm going back to the origins. And in that treaty, signed by heads of state, they said that the community action will be aimed at, and I'm sorry, I do need glasses after all. There you go. Education, particularly through the teaching and dissemination of the languages of the member states. Teaching and dissemination. And it's through that, through the development of polyglot citizens, that Europe has been able to function. And I think I want to underline that because I read the Treaty of Rome, and it doesn't say the purpose is to make language companies rich. I'm sorry, but it's not there. And it doesn't say to maintain the prestige premium sector, wherever the premium sector is, okay, of the translation market. And it doesn't say to have lots of students studying translation at university. It says, yes, the education, the teaching and dissemination of the languages. Now, I know we have to go further than the languages of the member states. We've become a Europe of immigration, of super diverse cities, where there are real problems to solve out there in society. The technologies can help us do it. But we are well positioned because of that foundation in multilingualism. We are well positioned with respect to policies and with respect to practices. But it's a conceptual leap to get from the idea of everything has to be translated well to how a multilingual society can function. And we have to make some efforts to work on that conceptual leap. What does multilingualism mean? You can find inspiration back in the forerunners of the European Union, the Holy Germanic Roman Empire. There's your man, Carlo V, okay? And this quip, which quite probably he did not say, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. It's been picked up by these original LLMs. You know, the LLMs that steal intellectual property, circulate it, transform it, spit it out in another language, and back it comes? It's one of them. The LLMs that are our languages. That are our languages. Before you get too upset with what AI does with intellectual property, think how our languages change through collective, shared, rehashed, recycled creativity. Now, I did look to see if he might have said it. We find in a Latin text, actually 40 years after his death, a quip attributed to him, but it's a little bit different. It says that these languages have certain qualities which are different. For example, I read there that Spanish is good for love. I'll have to work on that, I think. And the others which you can make sense of, right? This was a multilingualism of complementary languages that have their different qualities, and you would have to learn the whole language to use it in these ways, okay, of the L1 speaker, the bilingual or the trilingual who has perfect all-purpose languages. And the German is, although the horse is not there, the horse actually only came in with Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travels, in the century afterwards, when Swift said that he were to speak to his horse, it should be in High Dutch, okay? And that's how we've developed this boutade, this saying that has been recycled since then. I want to maintain the two kinds of multilingualism here. One is learn many languages perfectly, and the other, if you look at it, is what we would term subject-based or addressee-based code switching. Just having enough of a language to do what you want to do in that particular area or with that particular person. It's not the kind of multilingualism or polyglot speaker who has perfect languages, but somebody who can use a repertoire of languages for different purposes. And that is the kind of person that is to be created through this foundation document of language education. I know I'm moving away from off topic, I will get back to it, but I'm going into language education now and what kind of speakers we can hope to produce. So the common framework, the common European framework of reference, that's what it's called 23 years ago, talked about not the mastery of languages, but the development of a linguistic repertory, or repertoire, we would say, as social linguistics, reception, production, interaction, and mediation. And this is where this becomes a really, truly great document for me, because mediation includes translation and interpreting, and many other things that one can do with languages. And then it talks about what this mediation is and what kind of skills one needs to carry out this mediation. You can use tools to extend your vocabulary, the glossary, as they say there. Then this wonderful expression, techniques to skate over uncertainty and to avoid communicative breakdown. This is like the minimal side of beautiful, equivalent, faithful, perfect translation. No, we just want communication, guys. Avoid the communication breakdown, skate over uncertainty, and those skills will enable conversations to happen across languages, which is what you want in a participative democracy, I would hope. Okay, now have we managed to do that? I don't know. I suspect that doesn't really happen enough, but I do see the Erasmus students coming and going, and they do manage to talk with each other and have conversations and fall in love and fall out of love and have a great time. And that's okay too. What's interesting is that that document, 23 years ago, did not refer to any technology, nor did Charles V refer to technology. He didn't have a lot of it around. But if you look at what's happening with our technologies, you know what? Those people out there somewhere, young people, technology, they are translating a lot. I did this calculation in 2018. I haven't done it since, just because it's going to scare me even more. But just on those figures, professional translators and interpreters are doing, what, 0.69%? And that's just Google Translate. Now we've got many other systems out there, and we've got the whole Gen AI system. So the professional contribution to European multilingualism is likely to be incredibly slight with respect to these social practices that are happening around us and about which we do not have a lot of information. Okay. My question is this: how are these technologies, I talk about automation to bring together machine translation and generative AI solutions, okay? Just call it all automation. How is it affecting language learning? And for me, it can go two ways to simplify things. People can accept it as trustworthy, as was just mentioned, a trustworthy translation. So you know what? I have no reason to go and learn another language. This technology, if used in that way, can enclose people in their first languages and work against the multilingualism that I would hope this Europe can develop. Or the technologies can be used as stimulants, as ways of learning a language, of opening oneself to the other. You can have bilingual conversations with it. It can correct you. It can give you it can replace language teachers. That's the real profession in crisis. How can we move between those two options? How can we ensure that the second option will win out over the first? There are things you have to consider. One is expectations, the incredible hype that's out there around technology with very, very little knowledge. We're 2 years into Gen AI and we're still in an age of hype, and I'm going to give a wonderful example in a minute. And the second is the development of the translation concept. What do people think translation is? If they think it's a one-off, that's it, perfect translation, that is the translation, then you're likely to sink the polyglots, the multilingualism. If, however, you can inculcate a view of translation as being of multiple possibilities, multiple variants in which people can participate and develop, then you're likely to have the technologies help language learning. Now, one way of thinking about this is old PIM, all right, is breaking down the translation process into two parts. This is just for demonstration. It has no psychological validity. Although, you have a problem, you want to know how to solve it. The problem is there's a term there, we don't know what to do with it. What do? You generate alternatives very quickly and you select one. Generation, selection. Now, the technologies help us a whole lot on the generation. They can very quickly generate lots and lots of possibilities, and then the human retains agency. The human retains responsibility. The human can make an appeal to trustworthiness because it's the human that can select one from that range. So this is a gross simplification, but it may contain the key as to how we can teach and use these technologies to enhance multilingualism. Teach them on the generative side, and then get people to take responsibility and have agency on the selection. Okay. We're going to get some examples in a minute. This is an experiment we just did about 2 weeks ago. It's an intriguing experiment. I'm sorry, I'll take some time to explain it. We got an emergency text for earthquakes. Hey, big stakes, you've got to be right. Put it through ChatGPT 4.0 with no prompt, and to Spanish and Chinese. Give it to students in Tarragona, in Spain, where I work, and in Melbourne, where I sometimes work. Actually, I retired there 2 weeks ago, so I'm free. And we got this result. We asked them at the beginning, oh, no, that's it. The students did a revision, and then we asked ChatGPT to list the features of emergency messaging in the target language. So it's got all that prompt, and say, use those features to revise the text. And it self-revises and produces very good text. Then we get the students to compare their revision with the Gen AI revision. That is, can they learn how to revise from this technology? Can you use it to open your eyes to things you might have missed? Or are you simply better than it? We asked them at the beginning, do you think you will be better at revising than Gen AI, ChatGPT in this case? They give an answer. Then after the whole experiment, which lasts an hour, we ask the same question. So what happened for the Spanish people? They were very negative at the beginning. Oh, machines can't do what I can do. The brain, I've got understanding and emotions and passions. Machines can't have any of that. And then they went through it and discovered, hey, wait a minute, it picked up things I didn't see. And you can see they had come out with a very positive opinion. They learned something about it. What's intriguing is we did the same thing with Chinese students in Melbourne, and it's exactly the opposite. The Chinese thought the technology would be great, and so they were disappointed when it wasn't perfect on everything, which it is not. Okay? And what's the takeaway? Well, your satisfaction with the technologies, and therefore your motivation to persevere and experiment and use trial and error, depends in the first place on the perception you have at the beginning. Your expectations. If your expectations are high, you're likely to be deceived. If they're low, you're likely to learn stuff. So all this hype that's around, all these bloody journalists spitting out rubbish without having done research or had the experience of trial and error, all this hype is having a very profound effect on the way people interact with the technology. This is the last time I use this piece. I use it in all my talks, basically because I see Harrow there. It's just a manual item being torn apart by the technology. AI is crushing all you beautiful translators here at the TGT. Okay. It's absolute rubbish, of course, because, oh, you can see those numbers decreasing there? Oh, yes. Oh, that means people must be losing their jobs. No, it's outsourcing. You're outsourcing more. And the EU budget is growing. It's absolutely not there. It's just pure hype. It's taken some statistics. It hasn't understood them. It's wrong. But there's a lot of it around, and I have lots of other examples, but I will spare you them. Okay. This is the hype curve. This is the hype curve for 2024, August. Generative AI was going up about a year ago. It's gone over the top, and businesses, as I suspect we're going to find, are discovering that it's very easy to talk up a new technology, but really quite hard to integrate it into workflows in ways that are truly productive. And we are there at the moment. I don't know if you can see it. We're on the downward slope. And it's going to go right down and then come back, if the same thing happened with neural machine translation, until we get to something like a true plateau of productivity where it's integrated into the workflows quite successfully. That's after we get rid of the roller coaster hype that we're involved in right at the moment. So a lot of our teaching, if we're teachers, or a lot of the talk around it, if we're trying to integrate it into our workflows, has to get very close to the practical problems that it can really help with, and test it and test it and test it until you've got your own knowledge. Now, I'm going to make you work. This is real translation, folks. Okay? I have a bit of French here, which some of you can read. If you don't know French, that's okay. This is for you. All right? Now, the French, and I'm going to give you 3 translations, and you're going to tell me which one you like the most. Okay? So everybody here in Brussels knows French, right? Le placement savoir-faire, that's a problem for English. Huh? Savoir-faire, chaque jour les possibilités sont immenses, immenses. You can't have immense possibilities in English, can you? No, that's a problem. All right, so here's A. Defining the positioning of trains in a station requires a know-how of an expert. Right? You can read the rest, okay? Oh, the possibilities are vast. You like that one? That's all right. Not too bad. It takes an expert. This is good. The savoir-faire has become, it takes an expert to position trains. Trains must be assigned to the station's itineraries, and the number of possible options is overwhelming. That's a bit negative, but, okay, could be. You got to pick the one you like. Okay, that's B. And C. Mastering the art. Oh, that's good, an art. That's nice, isn't it? Mastering the art of train placement in the station requires expert knowledge, savoir-faire. Endless possibilities unfold. Oh, this is colourful and attractive. Also, inexact. I don't think it's actually endless because you've only got a certain number of... Anyway, it's a mathematical problem. All right, there you go. A, B, and C. You can see them there. A, B, and C. Decide which one you want. Raise your hand. Who votes for A? A has a respectable 25%. Who votes for B? Oh, B's doing very well. B's got exactly 32%. And C, who votes for C? Also a bit less, 19%. All right. That's beautiful. It's a division of opinions. I love democratic translation processes. You know, we should introduce this everywhere. Okay, now what's interesting is this. The first one, which got quite a few votes, is just ChatGPT with nothing. Okay. The second one is Chris Durbin, who will be proud to sign this, as she did. She published for 60 cents a word. And the last one is GPT with the prompt, translate to attract customers. Hey, you've got to use the prompts. You're going to find out later on. Somebody's going to come and explain this to you. All right? Now, what interests me is that if you're in the position of a user who can generate these possibilities, think of your thought processes when you were deciding which one. How would you know? How can you make that decision? There are no rules. It's sort of a bit of this and half of that, or perhaps that, or perhaps that. And in that situation of uncertainty, remember you've got to skate across the uncertainty, which one are you likely to go for if you're told one costs 60 cents a word? That one. That one. That's the one you're going to trust because it's expensive. It comes from Lacan. Lacan said, you know, when you pay the psychoanalyst, that's part of the cure. The more expensive you pay, the better the cure. Right? Okay. All right, but yeah, okay, I'm just saying that, yeah. Linguistically, there's not a lot in it anymore. There used to be, not anymore. But we must be aware that this kind of problem creates uncertainty among people who don't know how to skate across uncertainty. Do you want another one? You got another one, okay. Let's see, it's from the same text, I think. Notre solution également un outil d'étude. I've no idea what that is. I really don't, okay? Simuler rapidement les divers scénarios, and the rest is pretty good. Capacity en guerre is station capacity. Yeah. Okay, so here we've got our solution is also a powerful analysis tool. Analysis tool, you like that? Outil d'étude. All right, that's A, if you like A, that's there. Our cutting-edge solution. Doubles because it's également, all right, it's falling on for you. As a powerful analysis tool, same thing, and the rest you can go over there. But it says to quickly simulate and instantly assess. Oh, this is good. You've got to be quick. It's a bit of software, you're selling it. And then you can also use our solution to quickly simulate a wide range of potential works and evaluate their impact on station capacity. That is a good translation. It avoids the problem of outil d'étude. All right? Oh, you got them in your mind? A, B, or C. Now think of your thought process now. How will you know which one to decide? What criteria have you got going in your head? Who votes for A? Poor old A. You think I've used the same as before, no? You don't watch the quiz programs. You always change them around in the quiz program. Okay, who votes for B? Respectable, but, you know, not overwhelming. And who votes for C? Oh, where's Chris Durbin? Is she here? Okay, there you go. You got it. You got it. Well done, guys. You knew that C was so simple they would have to charge 60 cents a word for it. And I did think the cutting-edge solution, that was a bit, I don't know. I was going to say a bit Eastern Europe, but you can't say that anymore. You know, it was just a bit over the top. You know, so. Okay, you've done very well. You've done very well. You managed to get the human translation. But a lot of others won't. And a lot of clients won't. And they'll have to decide what to trust, and they're going to look for criteria to exercise that trust. Now, Chris Durbin's actual article puts her she's very brave. I'm very reluctant to put my translations out there. next to that of a run-of-the-mill translator and then of machine translation, okay? And makes the point that a good translator can produce something with higher linguistic quality, and this is true. However, I think that is flawed because it's assumed that the machine translation is just a one-off. This is the machine translation. But our technologies these days are highly interactive. I hope you know this is DeepL. I hope you know that if you've got a problem like outil d'étude and you've got a tool or whatever, the study tool, and that doesn't sound right, click on that and you get a range of things to choose from. And if that doesn't keep you happy, you can go over to the original site and change the text there, write something else instead of outil d'étude, logiciel, why not? And see what that gives you, okay? You can interact with the technology to generate alternative translations very, very easily. So the direct comparison, oh, I'm better than the machine translation. No, that doesn't hold anymore. You've got to be better than what a human, an intelligent human, can do with the help of the automation, machine translation or AI. Same thing there for the other problem that we had. But somebody's going to tell me, oh, but you can't trust the technology, it makes mistakes. Well, yeah. This is a village where I have a house. I was going to say my village, but that doesn't sound very good. Gracias a su situación geográfica privilegiada, thanks to its privileged geographical location. That's better than situation. DeepL's done okay there. Happy with that translation? Want to come and visit my village? Yeah. Gemini, which is Google's Gen AI offering, same thing. Oh, well, not great activity, not a lot of generation there. Try a prompt, translate it to attract visitors. Whoa. Nestled in a prime location. That sounds good, doesn't it? Oh, you want to come now? Calarite, it's a lovely village. Do come, please. Boasts a wide range of services and offers a multitude of unexpected discoveries. Oh, this is superb. I mean, it's teaching the poor person in charge of tourism in the village how to write a text to attract tourists. And why not learn from that? Don't cut and paste it, but pick up the bits that keep you happy and you think are going to work. Now, as some of you might know, but you haven't been to my village, that is not my village. That is what nestled means. You are nestled in a valley, like in Switzerland, okay? But my village is on the top of a hill, because it used to have a Moorish castle there back in the day. So your unexpected discoveries, folks, will be, hey, it's not nestled, it's up on a hill. Okay. Right, so what's the message? Well, take it for what it's worth, take these suggestions, use the colourful language, but for God's sake, check everything. Check everything, because it hasn't been to my village and it doesn't know it's on a hill. All right? And we're getting into the kinds of things that we can teach people in class. And here it applies to training translators, but I think to all language education, because I want these skills to be out there in our societies very deeply, very widespread. You're going to say, do not trust automation, but that means do not trust it entirely. You're going to have to tone it down and say, well, use it with care, or perhaps with a bit of suspicion. Okay? Check everything. Check everything. Now, people are doing this, young people especially, are using automation all the time, and using it very cleverly. Now, I must admit, I'm so old, most of my work is done through my doctoral students, so this is by Zhirong Chu, who worked on this Chinese historical drama, and with the use of machine-translated subtitles. And we followed through all the comments that are available in the 3 platforms that it's put out there, and there are mistakes in the subtitles. But the users are really clever. They don't believe the subtitles. I mean, if it doesn't make sense, they skip over it or just put it into quarantine for a while until it might make sense. There are reception capacities that are really quite highly developed among users. And then there are discussions. So this is a discussion. The princesses here make way. They say, wait a minute. Somebody's saying, wait a minute. She's a princess. She must be the daughter of the emperor or the king. But she isn't, because I know. And people come in and they have this discussion to clear up what the Chinese term means. And the actual Chinese speakers are coming in as well to educate us in the ways of China. And these discussions are quite rich. They're in the Time comments. They're in the YouTube comments at the bottom. Some of them have done maku, flying in and out. You might have seen bullet screen comments going. Very, very rich discussion going on about the subtitles and participation in the correction. So in this case, the subtitlers did correct the subtitle after the machine translation had been out there and after it had been discussed by the receptive communities. So what I find in these communities is what seems to be a possibly new translation concept. They are not believing that that is the translation. It's perhaps it's going that way, and we can work on it and discuss it until we get something that actually fits. We're going to talk about trust a lot. This is just a summary for you. The literature on trust in communication sort of divides it into the leap of faith, like, oh, I have no idea what's happening in the French. I have to pay money there. I'm going to not try to analyze it more. I make a leap of faith. I trust this person. I will trust whatever translation they give me. The leap of faith, like belief in God, folks. That's where the leap of faith comes from. And that kind of trust is very much in evidence in the use of translators and the desire to stick with one translator in particular, or to believe in a translation qualification. Opposed to that, you have distrust as suspicion of betrayal, because the translator could always be working for the other side. But what I'm finding in the research that we do on translation reception is something else. When I ask them, you know that text says A, and you have it interpreted as B, how did you know not to trust that text? These are my Spanish people, actually. They say, oh, we get this all the time. We're used to bad machine translation. We can make sense of it. They're activating a kind of low trust reception, which is hanging everything there sort of in suspension to be concretized when it fits in with the narrative or when I use a text and put it into action. And I think this kind of low trust reception is possibly new in post-print translation. I'm going to go quickly because I don't have many minutes left, do I? Oh, then you're going to get the whole lot, folks. Is it new? Is this new? I have lots of interview data on it. What's intriguing is it's rather like when we have a conversation with a child who's learning a language. Like, you can get to their intentions despite all the faults, and you make concessions because of the faults, and you sort of reconstruct it, okay? Or with a foreigner who speaks the language poorly, but you take time and you have patience and you can work through it. And this low trust reception can actually work. You know what it does? It skates across uncertainties and avoids communication breakdown. What's intriguing is that a lot of my work has been on pre-print translations, particularly around the 12th century school of Toledo. It's a misnomer. But a lot of those translations of proto-scientific texts would have the translation in the middle and then commentaries all around it about what it could also be. Okay, so we're talking about Euclid and trying to understand geometry before they cottoned on that they used Arabic numerals, or Ptolemy. And actually, in the case of Ptolemy, I've got a translation there with massive commentary around a discussion, like the Chinese people discussing the faulty subtitles. And then the Arabic text is also full of doubt because there are two translations on the same page. Okay? They're working from Greek through Syriac into Arabic into Latin. All right? So lots of things can happen there. And yet knowledge got through because they activated something like this low trust reception, which is, I think, what we might want to use in our classrooms. also, there are ways to extend one's glossary. The title of my talk is Why Automation Needs Us. It does need us to develop good databases. That's step number one. It does need us to develop intelligent prompts. It also needs us to tell people when to trust and not trust. And it needs us to interact with it to make good selections that are trustworthiness, and then to play the role of gaining the trust of downstream of the users or indeed of our clients. The mistake, though, in a lot of the hype is it's mind against machine. The machine can't do that, doesn't have emotions, doesn't understand, hasn't been to my village. Okay, it hasn't been to my village. That's not the problem. The problem is that we have, as a profession, developed a set of high-level skills that are being democratized. They are being taken away from us. Like the priests who didn't want writing to spread out to the populace and tried to shore it up and guard it. We cannot continue with that. We cannot stop these skills getting out. We should help them get out. We should help them inform all levels of our society. All the studies I've done on translator training programs at master's level, and this is from the early 90s, all of them show that around a third of our graduates go into translation and or interpreting. There are exceptions, okay? There are exceptions. That means most of our graduates are taking those skills we give them and using them in a wide range of professions and activities, many of them teaching activities. I think that's a good thing. I'm not going to say, oh, we're only here to serve a profession. Great, if we serve the profession, that's fine. I'm very, very happy, but there's a wider need out there in our wider societies. If you are in the profession, what's the takeaway? Well, you're going to find out a lot today. Here's my proposal to simplify things. Demand high pay. Why are you going to demand high pay? Because that will indicate high trust, and that's how you're going to gain high trust. Why will people pay to trust you? Because you're dealing with a text in a situation where if something is wrong, the consequences are, well, disastrous, or let's say just expensive. That it's a high-stakes situation. High-stakes situation, people are going to pay to trust, and if they're paying you to trust, they can pay high money, lots of money. Okay. Those three things. That's the future of a profession, I think. We're doing stuff there that is not done out in the world. They're doing stuff that addresses that kind of uncertainty you felt when you had to choose between those three translations, and there was no guideline, no particular rule. How do we do that? Oh, hey, 60 cents a word, it's got to be good. Go with that. Now, around the technology, there are many new kinds of language work that are opening up. So this is a report on emergency messaging. We're looking at emergency messaging because I've been in Australia and we have bushfires and earthquakes and sharks and floods. No shortage of disasters, okay. And we have 270 languages spoken in homes in Melbourne, and you've got to get information to all those people very fast. And speed is of the essence, therefore technologies are part of the workflow. But it's not a simple opposition between raw machine translation, or raw AI if you like down here. This research was actually looking at machine translation. And then the unaided professional, the human who does everything without any aid. In this trade-off diagram, where you've got speed on one axis and actionability on the other, taking the right action, there are many, many points where different kinds of intervention are possible, including pre-editing, post-editing, the development of templates, and reinforcement through human contacts. Okay, I won't go into that in great detail, but there are many, many kinds of language work that are opening up there in this interface with technology. As I said, it's not mind versus machine. There's a whole lot in between. If you're a teacher, I think you have to integrate automation into your classes without telling people it's just dangerous, don't go there. and without doing silly things like say, oh, put this text through AI and tell me what you think. They'll all give you the same text. They'll all say it's wonderful. You're not going to teach like that. Okay. You want to know how to do it? That book, at great expense to the University of Melbourne, there's a chapter free online. So I'm not selling a book to you. I'm just saying it's free. That has 57 classroom activities with automation. Yeah, get your phone out. Go to the book. Get it for free. Okay. Be creative. Be creative and use the excitement that the students have when they're engaging with technology. They tend to know about it much more than old guys like me, but they take on to it and can be very, very critical. They sort of intuitively have this low trust regime of reception. What you have to do, obviously, is moderate expectations. That is, modify the hype, both for and against. Cultivate this low trust regime, which I think is a valid social resource for dealing with the technologies. And above all, encourage interaction. Work away from that translation concept that says, this is the one translation, I'm going to go with it, cut and paste. No. Interact with the technologies, generate possible solutions, and then make people take responsibility for their agency when they accept and produce a translation. Thank you very much. Okay. We have time for questions. Do we have time for questions? Yes. Questions. Oh, do I have to see? Yes, very good question. In the book, we address the ecological problems of generative AI, about which there is a lot of hype, but it's a real problem, as is pointed out here. It was, I don't know, there's a number there, but other people said it cost Google's electricity bill is the same as Ireland's. Whoa. Well, there's not many people in Ireland, but hey. And I did look into that, and it's actually about 8.3% of Ireland's, which is a lot. And this is an ecological problem, an environmental problem, which people are trying to work on. It's a problem for technicians. My only contribution to that debate is if it's costing something, we've got to make sure that it's producing something good. We've got to get some social benefit from it as well, and try to measure or make sure that social benefit is worth the environmental risks that are being run. I don't think it's a KEYNOTE-like option to say, don't go there, it'll destroy the environment. Okay, but that's all I have to say on that. I recognize the problem. Oh, there it is, I can see it up there. What? Maddox, where does this $70,000 a day come from? Is Maddox in the house? I mean, you know, these numbers sort of get fished out of nowhere, but, you know, that's a lot of money, yeah. Other questions? Yes, please. Oh, Chris. Not really.
Is it on?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that was an interesting talk. I wanted to comment.
I got a positive comment from Chris. It's okay.
There we go. I think it's an interesting comment, this notion of trust and where it comes from. The kind of throwaway, it's expensive, so it must be good, is, I think, rather facile, reductive. Because in the business environment that I work in France, so maybe it's different here, business people are very often multilingual, maybe pseudo-multilingual, because they don't really master the written form of their foreign languages. And what they appreciate, I think, is my ability to interact with them. Most of these texts are discussed. They say what they think, I say what I think, and we arrive at something. That would explain the cost, but it's not the cost per se that creates trust. It's the talent, the ability to produce the text, but it's the willingness and training to interact with the client. And you mentioned that at the end of your talk.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's not just between students,
It's
but
a
it's
trust-building
with clients.
activity, yes, of course, of course. Point well taken. Yes. Do you have a microphone there that can turn on? Yeah. There's lots of people online. Okay. Can I say more about, sorry?
The low trust regime. Like, can you elaborate on it? How do we enable a low trust regime successfully without discouraging interaction?
Okay. That's a very good question. I'm trying to think of what's in that. One of the tricks is when you do these classroom or training activities, you always go into L1 because it's there that the student and the user will perceive the gaps and the differences. Going into L2, they're far more likely to accept the results of automation without being too critical. In the revision activity, people picked up mistakes because when they did their own revision, they were too close to the text. People who train translators know this very well. So they would be working at sentence level and picking up syntactic problems, but missing a clear mistake simply because they didn't connect sentence 2 with sentence 5, which is where you go when there's an earthquake and what drop to the floor means, Very concrete examples. And this is a particular problem. And the capacity to cultivate that suspicion so that when you get to sentence 5, you're going to remember, you know what, I wasn't 100% sure back at that earlier sentence. I'm going to go back and pick that one because I can see the whole text operating to tell me to take a series of actions rather than working on a series of sentences. Now, you see what I mean there? This is low trust saying that, well, yeah, I verified that when I went through it, but then go back and check it. Our translation memory systems, unfortunately, divide text up into little chunks and with sentences, usually sentences in each chunk, and you verify it as you go through. And the technology there is working dead against this kind of low trust regime that requires a bigger perception of the text as action. Okay? So I'll just limit myself to those two things to try to keep you happy. Work into L1 so the perception is more acute, and throw out activities there that require the activation of basic common sense, which is often what's most missing. Now, we have other questions. Okay, Marex, no. A quick Google search, no. That's hype, mate, no. Go and get some real data, look at some research, please. Okay, the religious, I can't solve that problem. Sorry, I can't solve. I mean, I am interested in the problem, but you'll find it in the preface to most Bible translations. It says the translators and editors were united in their faith in the Word of God as revelation. Faith will move you through. That's their solution to that particular problem. Okay. William, yeah, that's true, of course. Look, for about 10 years, all my doctoral students have been working on reception. We actually, with research, we know quite a lot about the linguistic aspects of translation. We're discovering things about who translators are, which is interesting, and how the mind works when you're translating. We don't know a lot about how translations are received. So the whole issue of trust is really on that interaction with the receiver and how they distribute their cognitive efforts and how they decide to go with one possibility or the other. So there's a lot to be discovered there. Little by little, I'm finding things I didn't expect to find, such as this low trust regime. It's really just came out of the research. It wasn't something we went looking for. Yeah, but if you go to the paper with the translations, you know, they're good translations, and they're quite simple and quite clear. Clarity, as was mentioned earlier on, is a supreme value in this particular world, and they are there. And there was one case when a translation mistake was made by the by the low-cost translator and by machine translation, and picked up well by Chris. But it was a bit of colloquial French that was probably not written clearly. Also with the emergency text, most of the problems we could actually solve by writing clearly in the source text, in the English in this case. That's the technical writing is one very important way of interacting with technology. How are we going for time? Do we need more? 10? Oh, damn it. Why should we use it to check everything? Yes, the time. This is also true of machine translation, and we do this in class, and we do the time on task analysis. And at the beginning, translation memory software was sold as a productivity tool. You're going to produce more words per hour, and therefore we'll all make more money. And then they found out it wasn't really happening, because by the time you set it up and you check it and you revise it and the technology breaks down, etc., the time gains weren't so great. Same with MT, neural machine translation. If you're going to go through and check everything, it looks like it's going to be fast, but you know, all told, probably not a great deal. And with generative AI, it looks like it's instantaneous, but no, it can be a long and arduous work process if you do it properly. So the time gains tend to be illusory. That said, with the emergency messaging, when we've got to go into a lot of languages very quickly, the investment of time is in setting up the project. It's in getting a very clear source text written. It's compiling the glossaries, it's compiling the templates. So when that emergency happens, people throw together a text from the templates, pick up that one, put it together, it's out. And it can work very well. Also because emergencies are highly repetitive, unfortunately. But, you know, you've got it there. So the time investment goes into preparing for the urgent situation so that it can go very quickly at the end. Yeah, but the idea that, it's going to all save us time, no, mostly illusory, as has been found with successive waves of technology. Okay, I think that's enough, isn't it? Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Okay.